Okay, now you're on. I got you unmuted. I figured it out.
Also, you don't have to do the camera if you don't want to, but you're welcome to if you want to. And when you speak, please say your name first, just so everybody knows who's talking when they talk. All right, let's get this started. Welcome everybody to the latest installment of our online meetings. It is the August Transportation Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting. Let me count the screens here to see if we have a quorum. One. We do. Fantastic. Again, welcome everyone. Let's get this ball rolling. Let's see here. Let's do introductions. I'll say your first name and just tell me you're here and what region you're in and whatever else. I just want to get an account for everybody that's on the line here. I will start with Jeff.
I'm here, Precinct E.
Richard.
I'm here, AARP.
Heidi.
I'm Heidi Meyer, MCCD.
Thank you. John. You are muted, sir.
Right there.
He's still
John, you muted yourself. Now you're unmuted.
There we go. You can
Okay.
also.
Now I'm here.
Thank you, John. Just a reminder, you can mute and unmute by hitting Control M as well as clicking the icon, little microphone icon on the bottom of the screen. Richard.
loading unless he can hear you.
Yeah, I can't seem to unmute myself. Oh.
Yeah, you're just unmuted.
Are you ready for me to talk?
Yeah, just say your name and who you represent.
Oh, Richard Rowan, AARP.
Thank you. This is also a good test on technology too, so bear with us. I see a call-in user. I do not know who that is. It is a 763 number.
Ms. Claudia Fugly,
Hey,
MCCD.
Thank you, Claudia. I will talk up to Daryl Paulson with the awesome COVID beard. Alrighty, I'll come back to Daryl. Let's see here, Greg. All right, I will move on to Cody.
Hi, everyone. This is Cody Olsen with the Minnesota Council on Disability.
And Patty. All right, we'll come back to Patty. Carrie. Carrie, can you hear me?
I think Carrie just got on, so her audio might not be connected.
All righty, we'll come back to Carrie. Ken?
Ken Rogers here, District D.
Awesome.
Carrie Sheldon just came into the meeting at District G.
Thank you, Carrie. All right, did I get all the members? Did I miss anyone?
Hi, Diane Graham from Metropolitan Area Agency on Aging.
Diane, I did miss you, Diane. Thank you. All right, did I get all the members? Let's, ex officio, let's move on to Wendy.
Wendy Wolfe, Met Council.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you for joining us. Okay, did I miss any members or ex officios? I know we have a couple of staff in the room. I'll let them introduce themselves as they present.
Patsy.
Yay, hello, Patsy. You are my other call-in user, I would imagine, correct? You dialed the phone.
I don't know. I have no.
Probably, yes. Oh no, never mind. I see you. You are on the WebEx. I see another call-in user for a 612-322.
That is Christine Pennon, Senior Manager, Metro Mobility.
Hey, Christine. Awesome. Let's go ahead and get started. We have a quorum, so I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Fantastic. All right, we will.
Oh, by the way, I'm here now.
Yay, Daryl. Dig in the beard, Daryl. Dig in the beard.
Thank you.
It grows fast.
Who moved? It does.
Jeff Danes seconded.
Fantastic.
Who moved to approve the agenda?
I moved, and then Jeff seconded it.
Thank you.
Yes.
I forget how we did this last time, but we'll just do roll call. I'll go through people on the screen here. Daryl?
What?
Hi.
Heidi? Heidi, can I have a yay or a nay, a yes or a no to the approval of the agenda?
Heidi's muted.
I know, I see that.
Aye.
Thank you, Heidi. Jeff?
Aye.
Carrie? I'll come back to Carrie. John?
Oh, I'm sorry. See what I misunderstood. Aye.
It's okay. John? You are now unmuted, John. Did you want to vote yes? Oh, now you're muted again.
Okay. I'm confused, but I vote aye.
Thank you, Richard.
Aye.
Diane?
Aye.
Cody?
Aye.
Patsy?
Aye.
Patty? And to answer your question, Cody, yes, people can vote in chat too if they want. So if you want to just type in yes, go ahead, or you can just say yes.
Point of clarification, Chair, too. As long as there's no additions or subtractions or any discussion, we could all just simply vote by saying aye, and the majority would accept the agenda.
Okay, I just for formality, we'll do roll call. I know it's a little cumbersome, but it helps us get used to the technology, and I do appreciate that, Daryl.
You bet. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's accurate. This is Heidi. You know, then you get the right people, and then you know you did it correctly.
Ken, I think I was on Ken.
Aye.
Thank you. Did I miss anybody? I think I might have missed somebody. If I did, just say your name and say yes or no. All right, let's move on. So that was definitely a majority of members. Let's move on to the approval of the minutes. There were a couple changes that were taken care of before this meeting. Hope everybody had a chance to read them. If so, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Move approval of the minutes, Jeff Danes.
Thank
I
you.
second Patsy.
Thank you, Patsy. All righty, let's go through this again. Let's start with you, Daryl. Thank you, Jeff.
Aye.
Heidi. John.
Aye.
Carrie.
Aye.
Richard.
Aye.
Diane.
Aye.
Cody. You typed in aye.
Aye.
Patsy.
Aye.
Patty. Ken Rogers.
Aye.
Well, we're getting good at this. Okay, I don't think I missed anybody, but if I did, you can say your name and say aye, but we've got a majority of folks there. Let's dive right in. Robin Kaufman, please take it away on our Metro Transit update.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. Again, my name is Robin Kaufman, and I'm the Director of Administration for Metro Transit. Is my sound coming through okay? Okay, I'm getting a little feedback, so I thought maybe there's a little static.
That's what I was hearing too.
Robin, hey, David, can we have everybody mute their, if they're not going to be talking, because it's kind of interfering.
Yes, please mute if you're not talking. It reduces feedback.
Thank you, Doug and Chair. So I have two agenda items today. Like I said, I'm the Robin Kaufman, the Director of Administration for Metro Transit, and I'm going to be providing just an update on some current activities at Metro Transit, and then I'd like to spend the majority of the time talking a little bit about our engagement plan that we just started this past week. So maybe to dive in for the Metro Transit update. The first one I'll update is about face coverings. As many of you know, on July 22nd, Governor Walz issued an executive order to require people to wear face masks or face coverings, and that includes public transportation. And so with that, we are now asking all passengers to wear face masks, and we're also asking our operators to wear face masks when they're on board and there are passengers on board. There are a few exceptions to this rule. Of course, children under 2 do not need to wear face masks, and people with any health conditions such as asthma or other lung issues, they are not required to wear a face mask. And also, if you're unable to put on a face mask or a face covering, you're not required to wear one. And right now, we are requiring it. We are focusing our efforts mostly on educating our riders on the health benefits of wearing a face mask, both to themselves as well as to others. And the primary way that we're really encouraging this is that we are distributing masks at a lot of our busy transit stations and transit stops and transit centers. So far, we've actually already distributed over 50,000 face masks to individuals that need them. The only other exception when operators don't need to wear a face mask is we've just installed some temporary protective barriers, similar to what you will see like when you go to the store. At the checkout counter, they have the new plexiglass barriers between the customers and the sales folks. We've done a similar thing on our buses where we've put in temporary shields that separate people as they board from our operators. So if they're behind that and or if they're a light rail operator, in their cab, they do not need to wear a face mask. Which is the second update I was going to mention, is that we just completed installation of that barrier on all of our buses. And so with that, last Saturday, we started allowing passengers to board through the front door again. And I know this is great news to many of you. I know we spent some time talking about this issue at our last meeting. So starting this past Saturday again, people can board the bus at the front door, and they're able to pay as they board. And what we are asking is that if people are able, we're asking them to board at the front, but then when they get off, they would exit out of the back door, again, if they're able, just to minimize contact with people as they're boarding and alighting, and to allow social distancing. So that's also great news. And then the last update is that we are continuing to limit the number of passengers on buses at this time, and we are monitoring routes. So we, as we see buses that are overloaded, we're trying to add buses to those routes to provide some more capacity. And we do have signs, like if a bus is full, there should be a sign that says "Next bus, please," when the bus is at capacity. And we've also instructed our operators that if they see someone with a disability at a stop, that they do actually stop, and they first of all contact our transit control center to find out when the next bus is arriving, and then they are to stop and verbally notify the customer that they are full and when the next bus is arriving. So that, Mr. Chair, is my update on Metro Transit activities. I'd be happy to take any questions, and realizing that I'd like to spend a lot of the time on our outreach efforts.
This is Heidi.
All right.
Can I say
Go
something?
ahead, Heidi. Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to know if we can do some training on, because over COVID-19, I don't know if I'm standing in the right spot in front of the door to go through the front with my forearm crutch, but you have some drivers that truly want me to use the back, and I never know how the bus is going to be set up, and I never know how I'm going to be dropped off, so I always board the front. And I made a complaint, and I talked to a nice gentleman at your work area, and he said everything I was saying was correct. It's just that, and then there's people who truly understand my disability with the forearm crutch, and then I one time had to yell, I am disabled. I have the right to be, you have a legal right to have a ride. So how do you teach, not just wheelchairs and walkers, but people like me, because I've been going to the mall a few times because there was a sale going on, and the Mall of America bus drivers need to work on it, and some of the downtown people need to work on it. And then I found out Westinghouse started doing it to me too. It started out nice. I just wanted to pass that on to you, that they're the barrier. And then if there's a hidden disability, then how do you deal with that, when it's in the legs and in the arms and,
Yep.
Because when I stand there, I look like I have no disability, but really I do have a disability.
Thank you, Heidi. I think I think that was great that you called customer relations. One of the things that we're doing is that as we get those calls, we're tracking them, and we're looking to see if there's any trends for what bus routes and what operators may be receiving more complaints, so that we can address that one-on-one. So that was a perfect response, so that we can try and address it. And then hopefully going forward, as of last Saturday, you should be able to board the bus in the front door. And so hopefully you shouldn't continue to experience that.
I just have one more comment I want to say is that this is going to probably be happening a few more times where we're going to have to go back to this way. So how do we keep on top of this? Or, if things change again, because this seems to be the way of the future, off and on, that we get prepared for this, and understand this, because I never worked so hard for something that seems so simple.
Absolutely. And I'd like, if we can focus on that, that's actually part of the outreach, or the second part of my agenda item.
Thank you, Robin. I just have a couple quick comments.
Yeah.
Because I do take the bus. I do take the bus, and I have taken it during the COVID time. I see a number of things happen. I see some drivers wanting to comply and wearing the mask whenever they're told to, and then I see some drivers not complying at all and not wanting to wear it, and they'll even make comments, throughout their ride about why they don't want to wear it. And then I see a combination of things. Like if you have the barrier-free glass, they'll put that between themselves and whoever is behind the yellow line. But if the bus is full, which brings me to my second point, during the COVID times, we were supposed to have only 10 people were supposed to be on the 40-foot, and up to 15 people on the 60-foot, correct?
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, then up until the 31st, I rode several buses, and they were packed to the gills that Friday before the first, before you implemented the payment fare.
Mm-hmm.
Those buses were completely full. I don't know if they were supposed to adhere to the social distancing and still do the 10-15 ratio on their 40-foot and then the 60-foot. I would assume that they would still have those regulations in place, but it was apparent Friday that a lot of the drivers weren't adhering to any of that. And maybe it was due to protests, because I did hear some of the drivers say once you implemented the front door boarding again, there were some drivers that were going to take some time off because they felt that it was just unsafe for you to do so. And I said, well, I appreciate you giving me a ride and letting me on the front door. But they said, we have to do that. And I don't mind doing that, but I don't agree to this front door policy starting the 1st. And I was like, I'll let the people know as much as I can.
Yeah. Is there, Daryl, were there specific routes that you have experienced this on that I can pass along?
Yeah. Particularly like the 54.
Okay.
The 64.
Okay.
Some of the downtown routes as well.
Okay.
Like I've seen the 21 was packed. The 94 was packed.
Okay.
Yeah, that seemed to be, I don't know if it was just that Friday or just that particular weekend, leading up to the first, but it seemed to be pretty much every other bus was not adhering to any of the 10 15 ratio.
Sure. Okay, I can pass that along because we do try to monitor and we try to add buses as we see routes, obviously, but it fluctuates by day. And
Right.
The only other thing I could think of is that there was some repairs on the Green Line this Friday and Saturday, so that could have been the results too. So
yeah, okay.
So this is Jeff, just to follow up on Daryl's comments. What is the current ratio? Because I've talked to a lot of our residents and people in the district I represent that are afraid to ride the bus because they see some of these buses being full or close to being full. So it's kind of hard to tell people this is the process, this is a procedure, this is a limitation in terms of social distancing. So I don't know what it is right now. Is it 10, 15? What is it?
It is 10 for a regular bus or 40-foot bus, and then 15 for a articulated bus.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is David. Robin,
this lady's done the 75 and the 68, and she was following it, and then had to kick a few people off. But because she can only do so much to be nice, and she was handing out masks. And the other thing I didn't mention earlier is the disabled, because they really want you to park, get on the back of the bus. They weren't always appropriately parking for the disabled.
Yep.
They were driving up in a way that I'm thinking, you're going to miss everybody. And they're really not, because they're getting the back door situated for all those. But then they forget there's people like me and wheelchairs and so on and so on. And there are bus drivers that I will say that are trying really hard. And then there's some that just really need a kick in the butt of learning about disability issues. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Heidi.
This is David. Robin, do you want folks to call in whenever they see that number is being exceeded? Is that something that Metro Transit wants to know about?
Absolutely, that really does help us to monitor, where the buses we do, we are able, the bus drivers should be counting and notifying that as well, but it does really help us. It does really help us to know where those routes are. So, and we do have, you can call in customer relations, but you can also, we just actually put up new forms on our comment line or on our outreach, our contacts page. There's a new form that has, there's a brand new short form where you could submit comments, and it's only like 2 or 3 fields long, including the bus route. So I could, maybe what I could do is, I don't know why it's humming. Is anyone else hearing that?
Sirens are going off. It's monthly siren.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So it's everywhere. You're gonna hear it everywhere.
I'm like, is that feedback? What is that?
Except at the cabin, Robin, you're not gonna hear it there.
Sorry. What was I saying? Oh, I can send you the link to where the new form is. We literally just loaded it, and it's a lot shorter and a lot easier to fill out. So you can always just, if you've got your smartphone with you, you can fill it out and submit it.
Robin, this is Claudia. Just let you know, I've been taking the bus out here, and I appreciate their drivers. They are so good.
Thank you, Claudia. With that, maybe because we've kind of started jumping into the to my next part. So, Mr. Chair, if you're okay, I think I'm going to jump into the outreach engagement part.
I think one comment. Carrie, did you want to say something? Carrie Sheldon. You're muted, Carrie.
I wanted to bring up an issue that I had earlier, that the driver would not strap down my chair, but he would drive slowly. And I did turn him in.
You did call?
I did call.
Okay.
And I just think that so if you could bring that back.
Sure. I'll do that.
Did anybody else have any questions or comments regarding Robin's Metro Transit update? If not, we'll move on.
Carrie brought this up a few times with me, and it makes perfectly good sense because I've been watching on the bus. I know the seats are up right now, but was after now letting all the people be on the bus, are the disabled still going to be able to keep their distance in the right spot? Because Carrie's in a wheelchair and she doesn't have a lot of choices where she can sit. And then some of us with certain disabilities don't have choices because of how the buses are set up. So we have to sit in the front. So are we making room for the people who truly need it? Because as COVID-19 was still happening, but when you have the mandate, some of the seats were down in some of the buses, and some people, and I don't know if they had disabilities or not, but it looked like they didn't. But who am I, the judge, you know? I'm already being judged. But what I'm getting at is they were sitting in the handicapped seats. So I don't know, because this is something we've been fighting for years to get straightened out. So how do we keep our distance and all be friends with each other and not kill each other on the bus? That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. I can carry that back to our communication staff and how we're communicating, because we're constantly reminding people of code of conduct and expectations. So
yeah, Robin, I hope you hear that very clearly, because when I'm on the bus and I'm riding by myself, we often pick up another person in a wheelchair that's waiting at a stop. And luckily, over the last week or so, the driver has asked me before he picks them up. He says, "Do you mind riding with another passenger?" And of course, I'm going to say, of course not, because I don't want them to not pick me up when somebody else is in that next spot.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that is the kind of thing that I think we got to convince the public about, or we got to clearly identify those two seats as needed seats, and we got to clearly identify what the policies are around those two spots. And either way, I mean, I'm willing to carry the message either way, but the point is that those spots there's only two of them, and often they're filled. But I still want to ride, so I'm gonna obviously say no. I don't care. I want to get on that bus.
thank you for that. That's a good comment, both of you. I will carry that back.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If there are no other comments or questions, we had, like, this is David again. Like Robin said, we did start to scratch the surface on the second agenda item. So let's just dive right in. Robin, take it away.
Sure. So thank you again. The second item, I'm just going to do a little intro, is that, we know that things have changed a lot over the last 4 or 5 months. There's been a lot of impacts, a lot of crises to our communities, and especially to the communities that we serve and provide regular transit to. So we're starting a 5 or 6 week outreach process we're calling Listening and Learning Through Crisis Outreach process that we're calling Listening and Learning Through Crises. And basically we're trying to do a variety of outreach to the community, and especially to our regular riders and the core routes, along the core routes, and really understanding how everything has changed, or what their needs or expectations have changed. So we are doing some surveys. We've got surveys online. We've already received almost 400 responses from that, and we just posted it this last week. So we've received 400 responses via social media and our online form. We are talking to bus riders. We're literally going to stops and talking to folks as they're waiting for a transfer or getting off a bus. And again, we've already surveyed almost 100 people in person, and then we're holding virtual meetings like this. This is actually our first one, so thank you for being the first one. We want to meet with community organizations and have kind of this group dialogue, so that we really understand what some of the impacts are. And the purpose of this, like how we're going to use this information, is that we want to inform our near-term decisions. You know, as Heidi mentioned, as we're continuing to evolve through COVID, and you know, things are changing, and we're trying to be dynamic and trying to see where the priorities lie, so we can make good decisions. We also are looking for our long-term plans. You know, we were working on our Network Next 2040 plan. And then we also want to understand community engagement, because we know people aren't comfortable doing in-person meetings and doing in-person type activities, and people are just exhausted. So with that, we've been going out. We have these surveys, and again, I can send an email to David to send to the group of where you can take the survey online, or I can send you the page to the SurveyMonkey survey. But what I wanted to do today is just maybe take 5-10 minutes per question, and just try to understand, first of all, like how transit has changed. It sounds like a lot of you are, or at least the ones that have spoken, are continuing to take transit, and I'm just wondering how your experience has been, and I've already taken a lot of notes on that. The second question is going to be just, have your priorities changed as far as transit? We surveyed folks back in 2018, and we found that being fast, on time, reliable, safe, clean, and comfortable were the priorities, and are those still the priorities? And then the third question that we can talk about is, what's the best way to communicate? And are you getting the information you need as things are changing? So with that, those are the three questions. Should we, Chair, would it make sense to maybe just focus a few more minutes on the first question and how things have changed and what other experiences people have had?
That sounds good.
Okay.
Did anybody want to jump in first?
And
I'll say something. This is Heidi. I've noticed with my experience that I have to think about my ride being a little longer, because sometimes there wasn't enough people on the bus, so they would have to sit at a certain spot for a little while and then get going. So if you have to be in work at a certain time, or at a movie or an activity, or like this meeting, I was taking the bus, then I would have to time it a little earlier just in case, because I don't know what the future holds. You know, Daryl sees it one way and I see it where sometimes it's slow and sometimes it's packed. And we never know how this is going to be played out. So think about, you know, setting up your priorities a little bit different, you know. And then winter's coming, so I'm hoping we can work on COVID-19, and you can come back and ask us questions, because that would be really good if we still run into winter, because it's going to be different. If you're telling me to board out the back, which I would never do, but I tried it once and it was a nightmare in the wintertime. We really don't have a good shuttle system in the state of Minnesota for any of the back doors very well. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you.
I love those points. So, and for me, for somebody that relies on the bus or public transportation, in order to do my job, in order to do my social activities, in order to take care of my family, it has been a very interesting situation. I will say most of the drivers, most of the staff have been very good, very accommodating. However, I'm concerned about the frequency of the bus and how often it would be. And like to Heidi's point, we've got to look at changing our plans and changing our priorities when we go out. So for me, I got used to the frequency of every 15 minutes there'd be a bus, and boom, I could get home within the next hour or whatever. But now during COVID, I plan at least another hour or so out because I don't know what those barriers might be. However, most of what I'm saying really boils down to attitudinal situations within the community, and those of us that are riding the bus, those of us that ride it on a regular basis versus those of us that might ride it once in a while to an event or something like that. So I think that's how do we bridge that gap between those of us that ride the bus frequently and those of us that ride the bus once in a while. How do we connect the two and make it fun for both of them, both of those groups?
This is David. I'm gonna jump in real quickly, Robin.
Yeah.
We're getting some feedback.
Yeah.
If you can, please mute your microphone.
Sorry about that.
Thank you, Daryl, for that comment. Can you actually repeat the question, Robin?
Oh, do you want me to repeat the first question?
We're still on the first one, correct?
Yes. Yep. So the first question is, let's see. How often did you ride Metro Transit before and now? And what are your primary purposes and how has your experience changed?
Oh, that's a totally different question.
Oh.
Than I heard.
Well, I'm gleaning as most of you are talking. I've sensed that your transit use hasn't changed as far as frequency. So I'm mostly interested in the experience and how the experience has changed.
I love pointing in the back. This is Heidi in the back of the bus. Heidi, back of the bus, and then they don't realize I'm standing here with a disability. And that's why I told you earlier I had to yell at a driver just to get on the bus because he just did not want to recognize. And others look at me kind of strange. So if you don't fit the norm, how do you still get a ride, and how do you get where you need to go? Because you can look totally normal, whatever normal is, because I don't know what that is, but still have a disability. And I'm trying to figure that out because it really opened up my eyes and what people think of me. Because before COVID-19 ever, I could always get on the bus. Doesn't mean I always get a seat. It doesn't mean I'm standing. It doesn't mean people are nice to me. It's just that I'm always getting on a bus. Now with COVID-19, I'm starting to look at, now I know how some of my friends in wheelchairs and some of my friends with walkers and other kinds of, because I am in the same boat of trying to get the ride. And to be respected at the same time. Don't look at me funny when I ask the question. I just want to get on the bus safely and correct. And they don't always want you to move the bar. So I have smashed my head 2 times on that bar because they want me to go under. And you also need to do some upgrading on that bar and your signs because I got pictures to prove that you got some crappy signage. Homemade is not appropriate, and you need to have your buses cleaned up and fix those signs if that's how you want it. That swing bar, which I learned that swings, which I never knew, if you wouldn't know that. So I just wanted to bring that to you guys' attention.
Okay, thank you. Oops.
This is John Clark. I just want to note that I am one of the people who's not using public transportation, either of the buses or Metro Mobility, because of a lung condition. And I feel that, so it gets down. My only issue at this point is safety. I just wanted to know that.
Thank you for sharing that, John.
This is David. Any other transit users want to share how their frequency has changed or their experience has changed pre and post COVID?
This is Patsy Murphy. I used to ride weekly, at least once a week. But with COVID, two things have come along. One, obviously, I'm not going to the Capitol weekly, but also just for the safety and whatever for myself, I have not used, I only use Metro. I'm not allowed to use standard buses. So I have stayed home and not used the transportation at all. So I can't really comment on any of the new stuff and how it's going. I look forward to being able to get back.
Thank you, Patsy. And I think it's important too, just to note, who isn't riding and some of the reasons why they're not riding too. So that's just as important.
This
Maybe
is Claudia.
Oh.
And just let you know, I mean, I've been taking the bus a lot since they've opened it up, and I've had no trouble. The drivers have been really good. You have to yell at the passengers once in a while for them to move, but other than that, it's been really a good experience.
Thank you for that. Well, maybe unless there's any other questions or comments, maybe we can go on to the second question, which is just which was, have the priorities changed? I've heard a little bit about frequency is important, but the previous findings were that people prioritize being on time, being fast and reliable, and being safe and clean. And are those still priorities, or are there different priorities, or maybe a different order of priorities? And I'll put it on mute.
Yeah, I think those are generally our priorities and should stay in the forefront of our messaging. I as far as frequency and as far as priorities, I mean, I guess for me, I mean, as long as you display on the signage essential trips only, I think that really does cut down on the frequency of trips just going to like the park, or just going down the street to visit a friend, or just going a couple blocks because you don't want to walk up the hill. I think so I think as long as we continue to have that signage and we continue to say essential trips only, I think that does cut down on some of the non-essential trips that we kind of see during the summertime and during warm weather months.
Agreed. This is Heidi. I wanted to say what Daryl was talking about. Our disability group, I have an advocacy group I'm a part of, asked what is considered. So do you have any examples of what essential things are, like going grocery shopping, going to a doctor's, going to work? So you can tell the public, and then you do it in a couple of different languages, so people will know. And then it kind of have with that, you have to have your mask, you got to have your money, you got to, not bring like a boatload of stuff onto the bus, and stuff like that. So people in wheelchairs and walkers and scooters and me, and then everyone can be distanced, and because I have been on the bus where the bus driver said, don't put your legs on, and maybe a little context to teach the different generations about how to sit in a seat, and be with your people. Because Daryl has a family, so how can he bring his daughter with him and Nikki come with him, his wife? So things like that, so they all can be a part of the community. So, and then I've been noticing some of the homeless people or people who have emotional problems or whatever. So I've been noticing some of that. So we just kind of work with them as they try to work with us, so we all can keep our distance, And then the bus driver just told some of them just to settle down or relax or just take it easy so we can all share the bus,
Yeah.
So that's something we got to just keep doing, educating and maybe put some signs up wherever you can with, if they don't get spray painted or scratched up, you know, behind your plexiglass. And maybe, because some of your stickers I notice on the buses, they're so tiny that they don't always mean anything to them. That you just go right by them. You know, put mask on, stay a couple feet. And then I noticed all the buses don't have that big sign that says stay 6 feet apart from each other.
Well, I
You know,
mean,
so
they
maybe
can't
you
hear
should
me
do more
right now.
advertising. I just want to bring that to your guys' attention.
Well,
Thank
they've
you,
been having
Heidi.
a lot of feedback, though. They were asking people to, I don't know how I got muted, though.
Because the person that runs the meeting can, there's that.
Jeff, we can hear you, Jeff.
Oh, I can't hear me. He said he can hear me.
So don't say anything disparaging about the chair when you're not on mute. This is David. Did anybody else have any comments about priorities? I'll ask Robin one thing. So were those priorities in order?
They were not in order. Yeah, I should have noted that. Sorry.
Yeah, they don't have to be in order. There's no special order that they go in, is there? I mean,
unless there are, if someone
you just
had,
want the question, you know, and that's what you're looking for. Good, true, honest answers to your questions.
Yep, exactly. Well, then maybe in the last 5 or 6 minutes, we could talk about communication and how that's, I guess, first of all, what's the best way to communicate? What's the best way for you to communicate to us about any issues? And what's the best way for us to communicate with you? And through this time, have you been able to get the information you need as we've changed schedules and things like that?
This is Heidi. When I was doing my project for the self-advocacy group, you know, for transportation, because I wanted to learn about it, I called the station to get some information. Just, you know, the person who tells you, you know, your route and stuff, and they know some stuff, but there could be more education on that side, you know, for very simple, basic, good answers. And, you know, because this is all hit and miss kind of stuff we're learning. And then when I called to make a complaint, I had a really nice gentleman that was going to take my complaint because he said I was pretty much on the dot with everything, and he noticed it. And I don't even have a disability, but I am a frequent rider of the bus, so I know exactly what you're talking about, so I get it. So if you have people working that actually use the system, they also can come back and say, yeah, that's really true, or maybe see something that I've never saw before, and then we start a dialogue of how to better clean up the system and help you guys. So things like that, because I had a really good talk one day with a gentleman, and he was really happy I'm on the Taac. He's really happy that I know the person all this information has to go to. He was giving me different things to look at and to watch out, and please report back if you see anything else. So if you have really good people who care about this, it will work.
Good job, Heidi.
Thank you.
Good job, Robin.
Any other comments on how Metro Transit is communicating information to riders?
For me, I see a lot of your social media tends to be right on and tends to be I don't know how you guys are tracking that, or if you see your numbers, if you guys are looking at your numbers, but your social media campaigns, anytime you do mass texting, or if you use any programs like, I don't know if you have a similar program like Hustle, but young people tend to communicate and tend to respond and tend to react to a text versus anything else that they're looking at. So if there's something you need to communicate with them, like a down line, or the light rail is down for a temporary issue, as long as you can shoot that out through a text and do it multiple times throughout the first couple hours, I think you're right on with the way most people communicate in terms of an emergency or in times of like today, in today's times.
To piggyback on what Daryl was talking about, I experienced, because we weren't getting enough for the disabled community of what we need to do and not need to do. We only know the very basics, but then we were concerned about our safety. We were concerned about this. So we were asking all sorts of questions, and that's how my little show and tell thing for the self-advocacy came about. And this month I'm doing it again because there's new changes. But it was just the idea that, and then I got an email back saying that from you guys, saying that we need to work on that. You know, you're doing it like we're just part of the general public, but we're kind of not, and we kind of are. It's a weird spot too, because I don't want to label people, because people don't always want to be labeled, but they felt like, you know, how do we get to be a part of this besides just signing up and being a part of the email? I mean, it should be out in the public, you know. And I know you want us to treat everyone equal, but the disabled community was starting to see some not so good information. That's what my group was saying. And I was like, okay, let's talk about it, and I'll bring it back and try to get some information.
Thank you, and that's a good reminder too. When I send out the survey, or when David sends out the survey link, please feel free to share that with some of your community groups and the organizations and your email lists. We're trying to, you know, get the survey out as far as we can and have as many people complete it. So.
All right, if there are no other comments for Robin, did you want to wrap it up, Robin, or is that all you got?
No, that's all I had. But like I said, I'll send the links, and you know, these were just kind of the high level interview questions or questions for a dialogue or conversation about it. But we still would value all of your actual surveys. So if you want to take the survey and again help us push it out to as many community groups and family members and friends that you know. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate all the comments.
Thank you, Robin.
So one question, Robin. How long is the survey active for?
Good question. It will be active till August 27th.
Okay.
And then
thank you, Robin.
You're welcome, Daryl. And I think it's going to take us a few weeks to compile all the data. So I don't know if we're going to have it ready for the September meeting, but maybe the October meeting. If this group is interested, I'd be happy to come back and share kind of the outcome and the results of the survey.
Please.
I have a quick question. I'm on that special thing I signed up one time. It's like a survey group where you send out, like, do you take the trains, do you take the buses? And I recently did one, and I don't know if it's the same thing. You know, you asked about how is the company's doing, how is your riding experience, you know? So I don't know if I don't want to overstep my boundaries of doing it a second time, because it could screw up your numbers or screw up something. I don't know how you're doing this. So I just want to tell you I'm on that, you know, mailing, because I can't do every one because I don't go out in that area, but I do the ones that I can because I know I use it because I go there and come there and stuff. But I signed up and I got a nice sign from the old, a while back, they said I can have a sign, you know, of the old bus stop. And then every so often when you need us to do a survey, you send it out to the mass public that signed up.
Yes, the Riders Club, yes. It's very similar, but you're welcome. That data isn't getting pulled into this larger. That was kind of the Riders Club, just for background. We sent out to the Riders Club kind of as a test for some of the questions. So we revised based on those questions. So please feel free to take it again. We'd welcome it. Okay, well, thank you again for your time, and I look forward to seeing everyone at a future meeting.
This is David. Thank you, Robin.
Welcome.
All right, let's move on to agenda item number 3, Metro Mobility Special Programs update. Andy, take it away, please.
Hi, guys. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
All righty. Let me lower my hand here. I'm just going to go through some stuff pretty quickly. And then if folks have questions on any of it, please wait till I'm done. It'll just be a couple of minutes. Running through our sort of special programs in response to the pandemic. We've got 1,070 grocery rides. Which are the rides. Oh, hold on one second. I'm sorry. I'm also on childcare duty at the moment, so I need to quick get a show back on if I want it to be quiet. Jackson, would you put on a show, please? Thanks. All right. Thanks, everybody. The grocery and essential goods service is the service through which the drivers themselves essentially function almost like a store-to-door or Meals on Wheels service, where they'll go and pick up somebody's groceries that they've purchased, through an app or with a credit card from the store. And it's not just groceries; it's also, any household essentials. One important note. We had been allowing restaurant food pickup through that service, and senior management or executive management rather decided that was beyond the scope of the service. So we've discontinued restaurant services through that, but other food and household essentials we're doing. And all these numbers are through the end of last month. So we had 1,070 of those rides so far to date. We've had 4,541 bookings for the Curbside Program, which is, again, basically us stopping, dropping someone off at their destination and waiting for 20 minutes or less with the same bus, allowing them to either, pick up a prescription or use an ATM, or whatever the case might be. Again, with that, you can, place an order at a restaurant and run in and grab stuff through the Curbside Program. And that would work. But for that one, you are going along. And the difference is there doesn't have to be a separate ride booked for the return. Again, the number for that is 4,541 so far to date. Our food shelf program has been very heavily utilized. Again, that's a relationship we've established directly with the food shelves, so customers aren't booking those, and it does not need to be a Metro Mobility customer even per se. It's just anyone who is a client who's served by the food shelf. We've done over 16,000 of those rides, 16,642 deliveries of food shelf goods to clients, be they Metro Mobility certified or not. And we're currently in the process of transferring those rides onto TransitLink as our capacity begins to tighten, as DTNHs begin to operate in some modified capacities, and people start to go back to work, etc. We're recognizing that from a capacity standpoint, it makes sense to move those to TransitLink. So we're in the process of doing that now. Healthcare worker rides are certainly our most heavily utilized special program. We've had 61,361 healthcare worker bookings to date. Those people may or may not be Metro Mobility certified, and that program is site-based. So it's rides just for work back and forth to a facility where someone is receiving clinical treatment. And again, that's 61,000. The AWARE program, that one is smaller but important. That is a special taxi ride that we've established for folks who we can't serve right now because they've either tested positive or they're exhibiting symptoms of COVID. And if they're in that boat, obviously, as a shared ride transportation service, we can't be having them ride with us, but we've got a special cab service set up where there's a barrier in place. There's PPE that drivers have and customers have beyond what we've got, and a very, very rigorous cleaning regimen. Those rides are just for, medical services, essentially. They're a very, very heavily subsidized, expensive program. And hence the relatively small number of just 36 rides so far. The essential worker program is the last one I'll talk about, and that is essentially just broader than the healthcare worker one. That's anyone who's an essential worker. That is now exclusively a transit link program. But during the civil unrest, when that was at its height, we took it on a bit and had a few stragglers after that. So we did about 1,146 of those bookings at that time, and that's plus just under 2,000 from Transit Link so far. They've done 1,942. So that's it for the special programs. But the other thing I wanted to just mention when I had you guys is that we did follow Metro Transit's lead and have started accepting cash fares again as of August. And we have started again telling drivers that they can and should assist people with taking go-to cards as needed if people need that assistance. They're using hand sanitizer between every transaction. And then also, we do now have a Metro Mobility Service Center staff person on site printing cards again. So for the first time since the pandemic really ramped up, we are able to print, refill, replace go-to cards through the MMSC. And that's what I've got. I'd be happy to take any questions.
This is Heidi. I have a real important question. The hand sanitizer stuff, are you looking at what's appropriate to use? Because there's been a big surge in the United States that there's been bad batches and it can make you sick, and one had died from it. And Walmart and a few other companies are had to clean out their stock and no longer, and they're asking people to return them. So are you looking at a product that's safe for them and safe for us? So, because they're touching, like Daryl's a good example. They have to touch his wheelchair to lock it up, and stuff. And Daryl doesn't want that hand sanitizer, as an example, all over his wheelchair, because I don't know how they rub it in and do it, but I personally wouldn't want it all over me. So are you looking at that, and they're not just sneaking in their own supply that could be a hazard? Because there's been a big news stuff on it.
Heidi, good question. And yes, we did a review of what we're utilizing, and it's not on the list of anything that came back bad. It's an important thing to look at, because in addition to, the phenomenon that you're describing, there's also been a cottage industry that cropped up with like homeopathic ones and ones that have less alcohol content than has been proven to be useful. So there's kind of two issues there: the error, the failure that you're citing, and then also just making sure that the brand you're getting is appropriate to be utilized in the first place. And the answer is yes, we're keeping an eye on that, and we're in good shape there.
This is David. Did anybody else have any other questions or comments for Andy regarding the update?
Towards more people on the vehicle, because I rode my Metro Mobility, this is Heidi, for the first time. And what I did is I saw the first 2 rows taped off in a sign. And then I saw the same sign that the city buses are using and the trains are using and I seen it on the big TV, you know, down by the trains of the wearing the face mask, you know, your little sticker thing that you put up next to where it says, you know, call if you have any problems and any changes, you know, and you post it on the plexiglass, you know, behind the driver. Is that going to change? And then the other thing, because I'm part of Dakota County, so my friend got to use the new transit, and is that going to get heavily changed over because you talked about moving loads to other transits, you know, and it just started. So he's been giving me the rundown on how it's been going for him. So I just wanted to bring those to your attention.
Okay, well, for the first one, kind of business as usual right now with the number of people on the bus. We're trying whenever possible to keep it to, you know, just one person other than their guests or PCAs, obviously. We do sometimes need to go to more than one customer, but when that's happening, we are limiting it to whatever we can to maintain 6 feet of social distancing or physical distancing on the bus, both 6 feet from the driver during the ride, obviously other than escort and tie down, and then also 6 feet from any other passengers. So we're keeping that in place. And that's kind of the same as it's ever been. We're going to try whenever we can to keep it to, you know, one unique customer on the bus at a time, but we recognize that that's not always possible.
Yeah, Andy, this is Daryl. That seems a little hard to do at times. I mean, I commend you for doing that, as well as is there the statistics on the special programs that you guys are doing? Are those all in our notes and those numbers? Do we get those numbers every month, or are we getting those numbers every couple months? How is that coming out?
Yeah, I'm compiling them so I can absolutely shoot those over to everybody in an email format. That's not a problem.
Okay, I do commend Metro Mobility in this tough time. They've, you know, the numbers are showing that there's still, even in today's tough times, there's still a need for that service out there, and I commend the staff and everybody that has to deal with troubled customers and troubled drivers, because let's face it, some of the drivers still need a lot of training and a lot of education. But I mean, I think for the most part, you guys have shined pretty well during this time. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I'll pass that on to the providers, and I am going to echo that for my staff, and really not just my staff, but you know, government workers take a lot of unjustified slamming. And man, I can't tell you the number of people who have really stepped up to help us work as a service center, from the people who helped make our phones work to the people who had my staff, you know, allowed to get their phones and computers at home, from the people who are doing tech support, right down the line. You know, obviously my customer service folks. I've just been so impressed with you know, everybody I work with and the kind of work that they've done. You know, for a while, my staff were working on weekends, which they haven't signed up for. My staff has been notifying people, you know, that they have been exposed potentially, which is certainly something they haven't signed up for. And they've just done so just wonderfully, which doesn't surprise me because I've got great staff, but it has just been so impressive. So, you know, thank you for your comments, and I will pass that along as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I do have one comment to rain on your parade of happiness. My comment is that I was dropped off, and the guy how close to the door do they have to be? Because I didn't get taken all the way to the door of my apartment, you know, because of COVID-19, and he said this was appropriate.
Yeah, what
Like,
we're
what is
saying,
the distance for that?
what we're saying is that drivers can right now, if the person is stable and able to self-propel, drivers can maintain 6 feet of distancing during escort if the person is stable and capable of self-propelling. But you're the arbiter of that, Heidi, or you're the boss of that. You know, if you're not comfortable with it, you can tell the driver that you need them closer and they need to respond to that. But what we are saying as a rule is if folks are able to, like I said, you know, self-propel or are stable enough on their feet, drivers can maintain 6 feet of distance during an escort.
6 feet, I know what that is, but then the door is way up there and I'm way down here, and I'm thinking, I know the old way that we were working really hard to get them to follow A, B, and C. Now with COVID-19, I don't know if they're picking what their own 6 feet is, because I've seen some bad things happen. You know, at the same time, he was very adamant that he was going to stand on the sidewalk, and I had bunch of steps and another step. I just know we've been working on trying to not have certain things happen just in case. And now with COVID-19, it kind of changed how they don't want to go to the certain places, you know, and it's not all the drivers that are doing it. It's just certain drivers. And I don't know if you need to go back and just do a little lesson, you know, on how that all works, you know, because he was very adamant that I'm done with you. At the same time, I'm going to watch you go all the way up to the door, and I was just thinking the old way.
A great point, Heidi. I will bring that back to drivers, driver supervisors with all three of our providers. And, you know, again, I just want to stress, you're the boss of whether or not you need a traditional escort. So, you know, if it's not up to the driver to declare that he's done, it's you know, the driver can say, you know, I think I'm going to stay back if that's okay. And the driver can even assume it's okay. But if you say, I'm going to need help with those steps, I need you to come with me to help keep me stable, it's still part of the driver's job, and it's necessary for them to help you with that escort. Thank you. That's an important point. And again, I'll bring that back.
Me that, because now I know I was thinking the right kind of things. Thank you.
This is David. Any other comments or questions for Andy? It's been a good discussion so far.
This is
one
John.
more that made me think, and then I'm done. You only have one person on the vehicle, then why are some of the rides, and even my friends noticed this, that they're becoming longer than shorter? You would think if you're the only one on the vehicle, we complain when you jam the whole vehicle with a bunch of people and we never can get home, but just you're only picking up one person. Now sometimes it's getting to the point where it's getting closer to the time when we're supposed to be picked up. And then there's other times where people are getting picked up like pretty close on time. So what is the reason and rhyme for some of that?
I got to just clarify here. I think the ride times themselves are actually much shorter now by a lot in terms of how long someone's on the bus. But where people get picked up within the window is, further into the window sometimes now. And that is simply because from a productivity standpoint, we went from having 2, 3, sometimes 4 different customers on the bus, sometimes more than that substantially on agency service, to trying to do whatever we can to just have one person on the bus. So, if 2 people are getting picked up from the same apartment building, going over to the same Walgreens at the same time, we're sending 2 buses. And what that means is that, rather than saying, all right, we'll be there right at noon, we're looking at, all right, we're going to send one bus right at noon. Then we've got another bus that can get there by 12:25. So for that negotiated pickup of noon, we're going to send that bus that can get there by 12:25. We lose a little bit of flexibility to be able to nail that negotiated time when we're looking at trying to keep one person on the bus at a time.
John, did you have something to say?
Well, first, I just wanted to thank you, Andy, for the innovative programs that you've come up with, given COVID-19. I think that's been very good. The second thing is I'm just wondering if it was mentioned that mainline drivers, their wearing of masks has been spotty, and I'm wondering if there had been any problem in terms of metro drivers with that, and also with customers. And I know that people with lung problems don't necessarily have to wear masks, but how are you doing in terms of compliance on both of those issues?
I'd say pretty well overall. Great with the drivers. They're recognizing the importance of it and were before the governor's order. I don't think we had a huge problem with customers beforehand, and I think the governor's order has helped with the problems we were having. The unfortunate reality is that, as ridiculous as it is, this has been politicized. So you've got, close to roughly half, a mainstream position, unfortunately, is that masks aren't necessary, and science be darned. And so, there is a little bit of frustration, I think, from some folks who feel like this is big bad government trying to infringe on a freedom. But for the most part, even people who maybe have some problems with it for political reasons have done a really good job of compliance, even if they have been a little bit of a squeaky wheel about it, which is just fine, because that's what we're here for.
And I'm wondering if there have been situations where there is evidence of transmission vis-a-vis Metro Mobility and the vans.
We are not aware of any. I am tracking it, whenever my staff need to contact customers, because we had a driver who tested positive. We are contacting those customers, and I am tracking whether or not they are symptomatic. We've also had the contact tracing line contact us to let us know that customers, have been positive and have gone back and looked and tried to help with back tracing that way. And we're not aware of any instances where we found out somebody who we contacted ended up testing positive or being symptomatic.
I appreciate we appreciate your efforts on that.
This is David. I have a couple of questions for you, Andy. Have drivers, either Metro Mobility or bus,
I'm gonna be done a little bit. I want to go too, so just
have they tested positive for COVID at the same rate as the general public?
Okay.
My perception is that, and understandably so, that drivers are probably positive at a higher rate. Christine, I don't know if you can speak to that in more detail. That's not official by any means, David, but we have had a number of drivers test positive, and I think probably, as with any frontline worker, you're just more at risk. The very act of, not being able to telework and still having a job and going out and working it every day, much less a job that's public facing, and, you're interacting with people over and over again, is obviously going to put you at a bit higher risk.
And excuse me if you've spoken to this already, but it builds on John and Heidi's comment, I think. Have you had any overly contentious situations where you wouldn't let someone on a bus who wasn't wearing a mask after they claimed they weren't wearing a mask because of a medical condition or a disability?
No, if somebody claims that they've got a medical condition, then they're getting on the bus without a mask. And again, I want to, this is an important thing to mention, particularly for the disability community. We're not just talking about respiratory conditions here. Some folks with physical disabilities can't independently put on or take off a mask. Some people with developmental disabilities can't effectively put on or take off a mask. And if those folks and the people who work with those folks and help support those folks don't think it's safe for them to be wearing a mask because of that, there is room in our policy, there is room in the governor's order for that to qualify as reason not to wear a mask.
One comment that I had is what if some days I'm good at putting on a mask, some days I'm not. So what if I'm a regular Metro Mobility rider, and they know, they've seen me on the bus, they've seen me put a mask on, but for whatever reason, today or whatever, I'm not able to put on a mask, or maybe it's not clean, or maybe I I don't feel good, I'm not able to wear it for a long period of time. How do you deal with those kind of situations? Because I know there are people at the bus stops that say, oh, come on, you can comply with it, you can put on a mask. And if you simply can't, or you're not able to, or you don't want to, how do you deal with that?
Well, don't want to is a separate issue, obviously, and the order doesn't have a lot of room for that. But to answer I think the meat of your question is, yeah, absolutely, disabilities fluctuate. And every one of the examples I can think of that would allow somebody, not to wear a mask, there could be situations where they could wear one and they sometimes choose to. But you're never required to, and it's absolutely fine, even if you do it sometimes, and we've seen you wear a mask. If your disability prevents you from doing it sometimes, then your disability prevents you from doing it sometimes, and that's just fine.
Convey that to the drivers and your staff as well.
Absolutely. My staff, I know we've talked about it. I don't know if that's been specifically communicated to drivers. What has been communicated is don't push back, period. If somebody says they've got a medical condition or disability related condition that prevents mask wearing, that's the end of the conversation.
Right.
But I will specify, that includes somebody who you may have seen wear a mask before.
Thank you.
You bet.
This is Patsy. Going off what Daryl was saying, what about, again, I'll just use Daryl here. Like he said that he may, one particular day, forget. Would the drivers just, in passing or whatever, just say, do you have a mask or whatever? And Daryl, or me, even myself, may go, oh, yeah, that's right, I don't have that on, thank you. Or are they just not even supposed to say a word?
Oh, no, yeah. We, if you're saying at this point, I don't want to wear one, or I forgot, that's a different issue. That's going to be a policy violation. It's going to be a violation of the governor's order. But if you're saying, and the drivers will ask anyone who doesn't have a mask, where's your mask? You got to have a mask. But if you then say, you know, I can't wear one because of my disability or because of my health condition, then okay, you know, thank you very much.
Andy, this is Claudia. What do you do with the drivers when you see that they don't have a mask? They say they don't have one, and yet we find out that the company or the agency or the provider has masks on hand, and they just haven't. They just didn't go and get one.
You know, that thankfully hasn't been much of an issue, but that would be subject to discipline for all the providers.
So the best thing they can do is call their provider.
Oh, as with any kind of policy violation, please do call the service center. We want to make sure we're tracking that, because if we've got a driver who is not wearing a mask, you know, the Met Council wants to know about that. We will notify the provider.
Okay, thank you.
This is David. Great discussion so far. Are there any other comments before we move on to the last part of our agenda?
Move on.
Can I say one more thing? And this is Heidi. I just want to say, like we said with the city buses and the trains, that if we go into winter, or let's say if COVID-19 goes away, but it comes back, that you still have a strong way of taking care of us in the future. So the people who are, you know, did all the proper things to sign up, you know, like getting the ID and getting qualified, can still use the transportation correctly and still be safe, you know. So it's not like, oh, we did it now, we could pack it away, we don't need it no more. But keep it, you know, in the background just in case, because I don't think this is ever, there's always going to be something, and this is a good starting point to learn from. So I'm just bringing that up, just like we did with the city buses. It's just, you know, to work on.
Thanks, Heidi. And hey, I'm looking to hear, Christine had an important caveat too with regard to masks that I neglected to mention. We, much like the city buses distributing masks, so are we. We have them on the bus. So if someone does just forget one or decided they weren't going to wear one, we can offer them a mask.
So they should be on the Metromobility buses?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Andy. If there are no more comments, we will move on. Subcommittee reports.
I had a quick
comment. Go ahead.
And that's no question. I know that there's many problems with tests and the number of tests available and the wait time and so forth, but any thought at any point of having drivers routinely taking COVID-19 tests? I'm not saying
yeah, we're not doing you know, required routine testing or anything like that, John.
Yes.
But what we have done is made them available for free to all drivers with no out-of-pocket cost, and we've allowed them to utilize the Met Council vehicle to go to the drive-through testing sites to be tested. So we are boosting the availability that way. I should also mention, related to that drivers are screened for symptoms at the start of every shift. You know, so their, you know, temperatures are taken, etc., so that they, you know, we know whether or not they're symptomatic prior to the start of every shift, at least.
How often are you being taken up by drivers asking for tests?
Since we don't employ drivers, I don't have the numbers, you know, on how many people have taken the tests. Yeah, I just know that we're offering them to all of our contractors free of cost.
Okay, thanks.
Great discussion. Thank you, Andy. Let's move on to subcommittee reports. We'll start with Blue Line. Ken, do you have an update for us?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So as many of you know, forever, I don't know, for a very long time, I've been repeating no report, we haven't met. And the reason why the Blue Line extension has not met in the past is because there's been a barrier with the BNSF Railroad has not wanted to engage in conversation with Met Council. And part of the alignment for the Blue Line uses part of the BNSF Railroad right of way. So without their cooperation, we've been stuck. Met Council just yesterday announced publicly that the decision has been made to realign the Blue Line extension to avoid the use of having to use BNSF right of way. So the meetings probably will be starting up again soon. So I'll be able to report with some updated information. The realignment of the route is going to be a big issue. So stay tuned. There'll be more coming. That's hot off the press.
Thank you, Ken. Chris is not in attendance today and he didn't send me an update on the green line. Daryl, do you have anything for us for gold and rush lines? You're muted. You're muted, Daryl.
Yeah, the gold line, I believe we met last month. And we talked a little bit about station design and platform aesthetics and materials that we would be looking at utilizing, like some warm tone wood colors and things like that. I'll have a better update relating to the gold line probably next month. And then the rush line they'll meet, I believe they meet at the end of the month. And then I can also have more of an update next month on that one as well.
Thank you, Daryl. We'll move on to the chair's report. I'll just say one quick thing to members of the committee. I always do and want to remind you that if you have items that you want to see on the agenda, please let me know. We're more than happy to have things come from the community and be on the agenda. It doesn't always have to just be Met Council and Metro Transit folks. Okay, let's move on to public comment. Anybody from the public want to comment? No. Okay, members. Any member comment?
I have a comment. I've looked at all of our materials the last couple months. Okay, we have a letter that was supposed to be on the docket. We were supposed to approve and send it up to management. I believe we should have done that already, but because of the COVID and the fact that we haven't met, we have not seen that letter yet. I hope that letter did get done by you, David, and I hope that we can submit that letter to the chair's office and to the Met Council members, because I know the chair was eager to talk about some of those things, as he was also talking about the ambassador program. And I think that if he's excited about the ambassador program, I think this whole piece of designated seating, I think it kind of would fit together in that regard, or at least it would give him an opportunity to kind of look at that when he's looking at putting the ambassador program together. The ambassador program does work for larger buses and over the road buses. I'm interested to see how it's gonna work with our buses. I know how it works with like light rail or like BRT vehicles because I've seen it work in other parts of the country. I'm just interested in how the culture of Minnesota Nice and all those things, how that's gonna play out in reference to the ambassador program and what they are supposed to carry out. So I hope the letter is on its way and we can see that, and it should be on our top priority for next month.
Is he talking about that letter when we were talking about the strollers and trying to figure out how to talk to because I called you up and I don't know if you were in your office, David, but there was where how do we do it now with COVID-19? Because they're going to say there's no issue, but now when we're all boarding back on the bus like normal, more normal, do we now bring it up and make it a top priority? Because there was a cutoff where they're going to say it, because I haven't really seen it until just recently, people moving up to the handicap spots, and sitting and starting to do things. So how do we approach it with COVID-19 and still get our voice heard? At the same time, it's always going to be an issue.
Right.
We know it's going to be, it's just how do we do it, Because they could use the excuse that, well, we haven't had that problem for a while, and it is a problem.
True.
Because it's going to be. I know it's going to be. People aren't going to just stop their behaviors just because of COVID-19.
It's currently a problem. I mean, we just don't talk about it because we are in this pandemic, and we are in this issue of being Minnesota Nice, and we want to believe that we can ignore it by saying we'll put more buses on that line or we'll put more frequency out there.
That's what I was bringing up. It's kind of like it's still there is what I was saying, Daryl. It's still there. It's still a problem because I seen on the buses as the more we have freedom, the more the buses are getting filled up in ways that are not appropriate. So how do we get back to the issue that we talked about before COVID-19 became the biggest issue on God's green earth?
Good point.
Thank you, Daryl and Heidi, for your comments. Do any other members have comments? All right. So if no other members have comments, we will adjourn and we will convene in September. Thank you all very, very much for attending and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you as well. And I want to extend a great thank you to the interpreters, both of them. I don't know the one that's signing right now, but Alan, you're great. And the guy right now, you're great as well. Thank you for hanging in there and doing your job. And we really appreciate the work that you guys do.
Good. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
Dave.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks,
Have a good
everyone.
day and be safe.
How do we leave this thing here? Let's figure this out. Is anybody else still on here?
Yes, Daryl, I'm here. This is Patsy.
Yeah, Patsy, because I was wondering, has anybody captured the notes or any of the things that we put in the chat? Because once we disconnect it, those go away.
Now, I personally have that thing that about the, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank, that Robin put on.
Okay, because I did see she put on the Survey Monkey and a couple other things, so I wanted to make sure those get captured.
If you want, I'll just quickly, I think everything else was just chit chat, but there, I just copied it.
Okay.
And I will put it onto something. I put it onto a Word document.
Okay, great. Thank
And
you so much.
you were wondering how to get signed out? Did you figure it out?
Yeah, I didn't figure it out yet, but
Okay. Well, if you move your cursor within your screen, there's going to be these little circles will pop up.
Okay.
One is a orange with an X on it.
Okay. I don't, hold on, let's see if I can go back here maybe. Yep, there we go.
Once you
I
click on that.
Yep, I have to turn my phone in order to do that. Yep. That's what happened. All right, so I'm getting ready to leave.
All right, take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
Patsy. Bye.